I'm going to show you all how to bind the armholes and sew on this lovely hood on your hooded jacket. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's Elizabeth from ElizabethMadeThis.com, and we are continuing in my series on making a quilted vest, a quilted jacket. The particular one that we're doing is this cute little October jacket that I made for my daughter. It's just a little quilted vest. The pattern is not for it to be a quilted garment, but that's no problem. It's really easy to adapt a pattern to do that. And I've showed you how to mark your pattern, how to assemble the quilt sandwich, and how to get started with the quilting and add the pockets to your vest, and all of those things. And I gave you some ideas for quilted vest and jacket patterns that are out there. So definitely check out the playlist, and you can check out those other videos as well. So today we are going to do the armholes, finish the armholes of the jacket. I'm going to show you how to sew on the neck, to sew the neck on if you're doing this, if you're adding a hood, and then we're going to put in a little hanging loop as well. So that should be fun. I will see you in the next clip. So we've got a couple more little details that we're going to add before we're ready to sew on the hood. So the first thing, I'm going to make a little hanging loop. That's just kind of a nice deal. So I'm just taking some of the bias tape, taking like a 4-inch length, and I'm just going to fold it right sides together, and I'm going to sew it together with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. No particular reason for that, just because I like this to be kind of thin. And that's how wide my particular bias tape is. But pretty much we want this to be just like kind of a little bit wider than a 1/4 inch. Our tube. We want our tube to be that. And go ahead and finish off the bottom because it's going to be easier to turn. So I'm going in just a backwards L down my little loopy. Okay, I'm going to take a loop turner. These are my favorite. It's like a little straw basically, and you put it in your tube. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to trim this down a little bit so it's easier to turn. So a little bit wider than 1/8 of an inch, but pretty close to it. And then I'm going to make sure that I trim that corner off really well. And then I'm just going to take my little metal guy and put it on the other side. Sometimes they don't like to turn, but you just get it started, it'll start turning. And just like that, I've got a nice little loop. So now I'm going to take my loop, and I'm going to just stitch it right at center back. And you can see I've got a nice line at center back. And I'm just going to kind of stitch it where the seam allowance is. You can see I've already stitched my label in. And I actually have labels from Wonder Label and also from Dutch Label Shop, and they're both really nice. I like both of them for different reasons, but I think they both make really nice labels. So get what you like. So I'm just going to tack that like right at the edge of the neck, just kind of with a few little stitches. Just going to go back and forth over that, and it's just to kind of hold my loop in place while before I go to stitch my hood down, because the hood seam is going to cover all of this. But this will just make it so that if you go to hang up your jacket, it's you've got a nice place to hang it. Okay, so I've already done the binding for this side, and now I need to do the armhole binding for the other side. So I've already measured this from my pattern, like how much I needed to cover, so it would go around the circumference, and then I sewed that into a tube. Now normally if I was doing this, I would really make sure that I was gonna match like that seam with that. But here, since we've got like multiple seams, because I had to piece the binding, I'm not gonna worry about that. So just put the binding over the wrong side of this guy, and at this point I'm going to get rid of my table so I can work on my free arm a little bit, although it might not help me. Yeah, it's not going to help me. That's okay. Okay, I'm actually going to work with the binding down and the quilted side up. This fabric is just really kind of hard to maneuver. Okay, so what I really want to make sure of is that my binding edge and the fabric edge are even. And I'm going to sew this with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And again, I'm going from the wrong side so that we can flip it, and it's going to make just a nice finish on the outside of the vest. And it's just going to be hard around the curve, but you'll make it. Just go slow. This is not the time for you to be not paying attention here. This is kind of just careful, slow sewing. And that's okay. Sometimes you have to do that, and sometimes you can go on autopilot. This is not one of those times. Okay, I know because I've already measured this, that this binding is going to be snug around the curve. So I'm just going to trust my length here, and I'm just going to keep my edges even. I actually think it's a little bit easier to sew with the binding down because you can see where the edge is precisely. Sometimes you can't always see that when you're sewing with the binding on top. Sometimes you'll miss the bottom side, but I'm getting really close to the end here, so this is going quite nicely. And I have just the right amount of binding. Again, I'm using that wider 2.5 inch wide strip of bias binding that's been pressed into a 1 1/4 inch wide tape. So it's quite wide tape, but the advantage of that is that we're not going to have to fold over the edge, and we really don't want to fold over the edge because it's really cardboardy. I'll say also that on my pattern, I cut off all of the seam allowances for the armhole because we're not actually sewing this into anything. There's no sleeve here. This is going to completely cover over the edge. So I'm actually not using any of the seam allowance, so I don't need to have it there. So I cut it off because if I didn't cut it off, then my armhole would be really super tiny. And on a vest, which is an outer garment, that's going to go over or something like that, like a teeny tiny armhole is not something that you really want to be working with. Okay, I'm going to flip this over to the inside, and I'm going to work from this way. Okay, so I'm going to take my binding now, and I'm going to just cover where my stitch line is for where I stitch that onto the other side. And I'm going to stitch pretty close to the edge. If you want to use a special foot that's going to get you right on that edge, that's not a bad idea. I'm pretty used to this kind of work, so I'm pretty confident with my top stitching. But I love top stitching feet. They are wonderful tools. So we're just going around this tiny little circle, and if you're doing this on a woman's vest, like not this little baby vest, your armhole is going to be much bigger, so it's going to be a lot easier to see where things are. And as you're coming around the corner, and the curve at the bottom of the armhole, it's going to get a little funny. the binding is going to want to kind of wave a little bit, so just kind of go slowly and just make sure that you are keeping everything nice and flat and smooth. Just make sure you're covering over your stitch line. I love doing the binding like this because you get just such a nice clean finish. And again, you can always do this with package binding too. It's just, a lot of times it's a little bit harder to do it because the package bindings tend to be kind of thinner. I should say narrower. So you can't always get this nice wide binding on the other side. And clip my threads. And that's really I think that's really the toughest part. You can see how nice that finish is along that edge. It's just a pretty look. And now we can add in our hood. So I'm going to go right side together. I've got my center back line matched, and I'm going to match that with the center back of my hood. And this is where I do get one pin. Okay, and I'm gonna just move things around. Okay, that's my center. My center front line is right where my clippy is. So I'm gonna match up my clippy with there, and I get 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm gonna sew with the hood up on top. Hopefully I can flatten that out so you can see it properly. Drop my needle so I can see a little bit better. I think hoods are a lot easier to sew in than collars are. They're pretty forgiving. They keep you warm. Ow. Ah. I tell you what, if there's a pin, my finger will find it. I actually am going to stop here, right here at center back. I'm just going to go a little bit beyond it because I forgot to put in the rest of my Velcro. I'll show you how I did my Velcro here, then I'll go ahead and finish my neck. So I already did the Velcro on this side of my neckline, and now I've got to do it on the other side. So this is just marked from my pattern, and I'm just going to go stitch around this in a square. And when you do Velcro, it's nice. Velcro doesn't like to be backstitched over, so instead I'm gonna sew around in a box, and then I'm gonna make an X with my box. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you want to think of it like that. So it's like a little dance step right here. And the sticky side of the Velcro is always worse to sew than the loopy side is. So when you get to a corner, just go ahead and drop your needle and pivot, and obviously this is way easier to do when you don't have the whole vest in front of you, but got ahead of myself and I totally forgot. Okay, so I've got that 3, my third side done. I'm gonna drop it, keep on moving this, and this is super awkward right now, but you know, sometimes things are stuck on something. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my original corner, but now I'm gonna go to the opposite corner. So I'm making the first part of my X. I'm in the corner again, and I'm going to go across to the other side. And I'm going to make the other side of my X. And just to make sure that it's totally secure, I'm going to go back over that last line of straight stitching on the short side. Okay, and that just makes sure that my Velcro is nice and secure and it's not going to come out, because who wants to unpick Velcro and who wants it coming out? You see this a lot on, you know, tote bags and stuff like that, or outerwear too, that they'll make little X's with the Velcro. It's a nice finish. And there we go. Velcro's good, and I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off the rest of my neck. So I will see you in the next step when I am adding the neck binding to this. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with your friends. It'd be great to have more people join in on this whole quilting expedition. So thanks for watching. Happy sewing for your hooded, so yeah. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends.